Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome your Master of Ceremonies, Charlie Barnes.
Thank you and welcome everyone. The Tallahassee Quarterback Club Foundation is unique, and in the 27 years since its founding, this Biletnikoff Award and the accompanying annual celebration has become the platinum standard among all the college football awards. Please consider that today you are participating in the only in-person celebration presented by any of the 10 major college football awards recognized by the National College Football Awards Association. Yes, applaud ourselves. Your magnificent 65-page color-printed program is recognized as the best among all the awards. The standing of the Biletnikoff Award now rivals the Heisman due to the quality of our 640 voters. A juried national competition awarded the Biletnikoff Trophy the first place as the most beautiful trophy in college sports. Mr. Will Stewart has proven to be a tirelessly creative source in maintaining our award-winning Biletnikoff website as well as our preferential voting system, whose ballot design has been hailed by the Maxwell Award as the best among all of college football awards. Two final points may be the most important. First, the Biletnikoff is an all-volunteer award. There are no paid employees. All funds go to scholarships. And finally, I think this is most significant, the Tallahassee Quarterback Club Foundation, through the Biletnikoff Award, annually distributes more money in scholarships than all the other major awards combined to their charities. Applaud yourself for that. In 2022, we anticipate returning to good times, an evening banquet, black tie reception, 550 patrons celebrating the 2021 Biletnikoff Award winner, and all of our 2022 scholarship recipients. Please take the appropriate health precautions this year. Please do not make physical contact with any of our special guests, and that includes no autographing or of the banquet programs or anything else. The silent auction offers a great number of autographed items at bargain prices. We're taking every precaution to have an entirely safe presentation with delicious celebration meal and a full program. We're taking these precautions out of respect for our guests and our patrons gathered here today. So please, no recording of the banquet program. The narratives of our scholarship recipients especially can be very personal. Now, if somebody tries to do something like that, realize that no culprit is fast enough to escape Devontae Smith, and former Outland Trophy winner Chad Hennings will impress upon them the error of their ways. The Foundation's charitable mission is providing scholarships and other benefits to high school seniors in North Florida who have overcome significant challenges to achieve at the highest levels of academic and extracurricular excellence. These scholarships are based on merit, not on financial need. All of the proceeds from the auction and the banquet go to scholarships. The foundation has no employees, virtually no overhead. In fact, we're the only major college award with no full-time employees. All the work is done by volunteers. The foundation's good work and accomplishment has always been remarkable, but in this extraordinary 2020-21 year, many existing standards of achievement have been surpassed. The total money distributed to these scholars by the Quarterback Foundation dwarfs the amount provided by all the other awards combined. We are in 11 counties now in 2021. We are at the provision of 300 scholarships, and many, many, many millions of dollars benefit these young people. This is a strong year in revenues despite the pandemic and the significant safety precautions we've instituted out of respect for you, our patrons. There is no doubt that this is one of the finest collection of silent auction items in the history of the event. There are unique items, jewelry, destinations, memorabilia. They are priced to sell. They are great gifts for display. All the money goes to scholarships. I picked out a couple of interesting ones. The 8-day, 7-night stay in a 6,200 square foot architectural treasure mountain home in Montana with breathtaking views of 8 mountain ranges and access to world-renowned ski resorts like Big Sky. The architect who designed this home and other homes has been featured in Architectural Digest. The interior features more than 140 works of original art and a library of more than 1,500 volumes. Beautiful kitchen, 80-inch TV screen in the media room, 5 bathrooms, 2 master suites, a guest suite upstairs, and multiple guest rooms. The entire house was designed by a 4-time Historic Preservation Award winner. If you can't have a party there, then you have no ambition or imagination. The Montana home is a $10,000 value for a minimum bid of $7,000. Other items include a gift of great value from Robert's Jewelry, 1-year membership in the Premier Health and Fitness Center. Even if you never work out, you'll see everyone you know there. There are any number of footballs signed variously by Joe Montana, Fred Biletnikoff, the late Floyd Little, former Super Bowl Most Valuable Player, Heisman Trophy winner Desmond Howard, as well as former Biletnikoff winners Justin Blackmon, Brandon Cook, and James Washington. I see that one of the things you can purchase is lunch with me. I'm retired now and I am available. I promise you all good stuff, all new material. I know everything about Bobby Bowden, and I have access to the secret tapes. See, it wasn't as funny as you thought, Walter. Lots and lots of unique items. Several Notre Dame jerseys, 2 jerseys autographed by Lou Holtz, and 1 number 9 Alabama Amari Cooper jersey autographed by Devontae Smith. A hat autographed by Jamar Chase and Lou Holtz together. Camouflage hat, I like that. Camouflage hat signed by Chad Hennings and Devontae Smith. Also an Air Force replica helmet signed by Chad Hennings and a Dallas Cowboy replica signed by Chad. And an official Reebok Dallas Cowboys number 95 jersey signed by Chad Hennings. This is pretty cool. A 1958 LSU National Champions jersey signed by Heisman Trophy winner Billy Cannon and members of the 1958 LSU National Championship team. We have any number of items signed by our 2020 Biletnikoff Award and Heisman Trophy winner Devontae Smith, several handsome black Biletnikoff hats, replica Amari Cooper jersey signed by Devontae Smith, and a Crimson Tide replica helmet signed by Devontae. Now, please help me welcome Foundation Chairman-elect Roger Champion to deliver the invocation.
Thank you, Charlie. Please bow your heads and join me in today's invocation. Almighty and ever-living God, accept our humble thanks for this day and all its blessings, together with this banquet and the food. Thank you for the generosity and dedication of the Foundation trustees, as well as those of its patrons and guests. Bless the Foundation mission and its outstanding scholarship recipients, in addition to all those who have overcome significant barriers to achieve at higher levels. Moreover, bless all present and those whom they love, our community, our great nation, as well as those in the military and other service who preserve our freedom and liberty, as well as all citizens who protect and safeguard the Constitution of the United States. Render unto us your guidance, sustain and nourish us with your infinite wisdom, while keeping us mindful of the needs of others. Amen.
Thank you, Roger. Ladies and gentlemen, please enjoy your meals now. Ladies and gentlemen, This marks the 27th year of the Tallahassee Quarterback Club Foundation and the good works and generosity that have enabled more than 300 deserving young men and women to attend college. Everyone associated with the Biletnikoff Award, and indeed everyone in Tallahassee, knows our foundation chairman, George Avant Jr. His family settled into Florida 6 generations ago, and 5 generations have graduated from what is now Florida State University. George and his team of advisors in the Avant Financial Group bring more than 100 years combined experience to the table and manage nearly $500 million in assets for their clients. He and Cindy have 3 children. Please welcome our 2021 Foundation Chairman, George Avant Jr.
Welcome, everyone. I am honored and humbled to be this year's chairman. We thank you all for coming. As you know, this is our first luncheon celebration, so I'll always be remembered as the chairman that did the luncheon celebration. In about 2.5 hours, I will be deeply honored to turn over the chairmanship to Roger Champion. As Charlie said, we are the only major college football award this year that had a in-person live event. So I'm very proud of that. Thank you, Walter Manley, for making that happen and calling that 6 months ago and saying, I think we can do this. And of course, we thank everyone in the room for their generous support. And don't worry, if you haven't generously supported us yet, you will have that opportunity in a minute. Guest trustees and scholarship recipients, the Biletnikoff Award was started by some dedicated, visionary trustees, and our charitable mission is to provide substantial merit scholarships for deserving North Florida high school seniors. We have done that in spades. One of my clients was telling me a couple weeks ago, she says, you know, my daughter's scholarship actually paid for 2 years of FSU tuition and books. So it basically enabled her to get a degree without, having to go into a bunch of debt. We are truly changing lives and brightening the future. As Charlie said, we are all volunteer. 100% of your donations go straight to scholarships. Any expenses that we incur are covered by the table sales. So every other dollar, and we actually make a little bit of money on the table sales, not much, but a little bit. We're trying to get the University Center Club to lower their price a little bit, but so far we've had no success with that, Pam. Part of the reason we can be an all-volunteer organization is we have 2 very wonderful interns. Dan Madden, can you stand? And Reese Fishback. Where are you guys? Over there. Thank you, guys. They have put in hundreds of hours helping us, helping Walt. Walt pretty much did the program by himself with their help. And I thought page 53 turned out really well, Walt. That was a full-page ad by one of your sponsors. We've awarded over 300 scholarships, about $5 million in value. That's amazing. Charlie said more than the other major college football awards combined every year. It's actually 3 times more than all of the other major college football awards we give away. 3 times more than all of them combined, except the Heisman. The Heisman gets a $3 million check every year from Nissan, which so far we haven't procured one of those sponsors. But of course, hopefully all y'all know that this year's winner Devontae won the Heisman, as well as the Biletnikoff. So, pretty special guy in our presence right now. I don't know how many of y'all had the privilege of watching him play some last year, but he is truly amazing. Truly amazing. To our well-deserving 13 scholarship winners, congratulations on your accomplishments and achievements. But remember, success is never final. Keep striving for excellence. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, George. Ladies and gentlemen, we will now begin today's program. We're especially grateful for the generosity of our two banquet sponsors, Walter Manley and his wife Linda, and Steve Dobson III and his wife Missy. Walter, you and Steve have our deep, heartfelt gratitude, and I want to say I've spoken with the University Center Club, and the cash bar will remain open for you as late as you want, even into the late evening. And boys in the back, the bartenders, just the good stuff for them, just the good stuff for them. On behalf of our chairman, George Avant Jr., and our banquet co-chairman, Les McLean and Mark Ryan, and all the foundation trustees, welcome to this always elegant and star-studded event here this afternoon, and to this 27th annual Biletnikoff Award. Today we will recognize and pay tribute to our scholarship winners and to the nation's top collegiate receivers, to the two Biletnikoff Award finalists, Elijah Moore of the Ole Miss Rebels and Kyle Pitts of the Florida Gators. I know some of you are out there. Where's that go? Where are those Gators out there? I got you. All right. And of course, to the 2020 Biletnikoff Award winner, Devontae Smith of the Alabama Crimson Tide. All of the officers and all of the trustees of the Quarterback Club Foundation in 2021 are reproduced in your beautiful printed programs on page 7 and on the Foundation website, and their names also appear on the scroll on your screens. Also on page 7, please note the names of the Foundation committees, their chairman, and their members. They appear on page 12. I would like for you to join me first in recognizing our life trustees and asking them to stand along with our honorary trustees. Our life trustees and honorary trustees, please stand. Thank you for all your support. And finally, would all of our foundation trustees please stand now? Please join me in thanking them for their important work for the foundation. Let me begin by welcoming our special guests. We're pleased to welcome Florida's former Lieutenant Governor, Jeff Kottkamp. Also at Governor Kottkamp's table, our guest, former Seminole All-American quarterback, Wally Woodham. We do have wonderful support, as George said, from our young Florida State student interns. I'd like to recognize their mentor, FSU Professor Jason Pappas, head of the Sports Management Intern Program. Professor, where are you? There you are. Of course, Bill and Kathy Gunter. Bill's a former United States Congressman, as well as Florida's Treasurer and Insurance Commissioner. Kathy is a former national chairman of Seminole Boosters, and Bill and Kathy are scholarship donors. Welcome trustee Mark Ryan, partner in the accounting firm of Sanders, Holloway, and Ryan. They receive and certify all of the selection committee ballots. Mark? Also welcome this evening our retired FSU professor Charles Rockwood, who is donating $2.2 million to the College of Music to purchase a handmade pipe organ for Opperman Music Hall. Please welcome our guest, John Maxon, Assistant Athletics Director for Football Communications at the University of Alabama. And I'd like to welcome Gadsden County Superintendent of Schools, Mr. Elijah Key, and Chairman of the Gadsden County School Board, Mr. Leroy McMillan. A name every Florida State fan knows, Pat Hogan, longtime former vice president of the university. Pat? Former All-American quarterback Gary Huff finished in the top 10 in Heisman voting in 1972. And Michael Alford, president and CEO of Seminole Boosters. On page 6 of your printed program, see the names of those who have contributed their services to the good work of the foundation. Your award-winning 65-page program was printed by Gandy Printers in Tallahassee. The writer and producer of this program was Professor Walter Manley II. I also want to thank Riles Lee again for his excellence in photography. I want also to make special note of the contributions to this production today of American Audiovisual and David Damron. And you may take these beautiful table arrangements home with you if you wish. Not so much applause for the flowers, I see, but they are not. Leave them with a friend. That'd be good. We're honored to host an especially distinguished dais today. First is our 2021 Biletnikoff Award winner, Mr. Devontae Smith, who is also winner of the 2021-2020 Heisman Trophy. Welcome to you. We're similarly honored to host our guest speaker, winner of the 1987 Outland Trophy for the nation's best college interior lineman, three-time Super Bowl champion and member of the College Football Hall of Fame, Mr. Chad Hennings. And to my left, University of Alabama wide receivers coach Mr. Holman Wiggins, where he coached Devontae Smith and our 2018 Biletnikoff winner Jerry Judy. Coach Wiggins, I know that you don't know this, but Bobby Bowden was Fred Biletnikoff's position coach in the early 1960s. He coached wide receivers at Florida State. And I asked him about that. I said, Biletnikoff was so phenomenal, and you were his coach. How did that work out? He said, well, me and old Fred, we had a system. You know how he talks. Me and old Fred, we had a thing going there. I could help him out. I made him better. And I said, well, how did that work? How do you coach a guy like Fred Biletnikoff? And he said, well, I had me some pieces of paper in my pocket, and during the game, I would write instructions down on the paper. And then I would send him into the huddle. And this is true. I would send him into the huddle. And I said, my goodness, so you communicate with him by paper? He said, yeah. And I said, well, what did the paper say? He said, it said, now. That was how I coached old Fred. Life trustee Steve Wynn is Chad's host for today's event, and Scott Houston is Devontae's host. Our own Fred Biletnikoff, almost always with us here at the head table, but I know you join our officers and trustees in wishing Angela Biletnikoff a speedy recovery from her hip surgery, and we look forward to seeing Fred next year. Fred sends his best regards to everyone, his congratulations to Devontae, and he regrets missing the program and hearing Chad's speech. Once again, I'll announce that the auction will close at 1:30. Please make your bids and begin your closing strategies. There are any number of interesting, valuable, and unique items. I picked out a few: a round of golf at Glenarvan in Thomasville with lessons from Bill Connolly, a valuable piece of jewelry from Roberts Jewelry and Design, University of Florida Gator helmet autographed by Heisman Trophy winner Danny Werfel, a $100 gift certificate to Savor, the new restaurant on Park. I was just there Thursday night. Governor's Club Chef's Table for 6, and a gift certificate to Blue Halo. Fabulous food and an experience for all. As George said, our foundation trustees are all volunteers. They spend all of their time raising money for scholarships and good works. And this is very important. All of the proceeds go toward the scholarship recipients. There's no overhead, we have no salaried employees, and we are the only college football award that does that. Now, Fred Biletnikoff is the namesake of our award. The history and criteria of the Biletnikoff Award appears in your programs, one of the most beautiful and thoroughly written programs in America, thanks to composition by Chairman Walter Manley II. Let's enjoy our own look at Fred Biletnikoff, the namesake of this iconic award. Fred.
In the prime of his career with the Oakland Raiders, Fred Biletnikoff was balding, frail-looking, and really unassuming. Actually, he looked more like an accountant than a man of action. But in the NFL, he was among the most productive clutch players ever to take the field. He was really a self-made player, truly a pass-catching wizard who worked for everything he got. And in August of 1987, he became only the 5th wide receiver ever to be inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame.
You know, they never put the word genius as far as receiver, but if they put the word genius with player, Fred Biletnikoff as a receiver would be a genius.
Genius comes in many figurations. It comes in great size and great strength, in great speed, and maybe once in every decade in great artistry. A man will walk softly into the valley of giants and he will make you wonder, where is the body? Where is the strength? Where is the speed? How is he going to play a Giants game? How is he going to compensate?
I had a lot of work to do. The only talent I had when I came into professional football was at being able to catch a football.
He didn't have a lot of natural things. I mean, he wasn't big, he wasn't strong, he wasn't fast, but he worked harder than anyone else. He knew more about receiving and running pass patterns and catching the ball than anyone I've ever met in my life.
While others relied on pure speed, Biletnikoff thrived on guile, for he knew the object was not to win a foot race, but to catch a football.
When he had to catch a football, he went for it as if it were a dance in the heavens and the stars, that nobody was going to stop him from catching the football, and nobody could.
Desire was the flip side to Biletnikoff's genius. His father was a national amateur boxing champion, and Biletnikoff was able to harness the savage instincts of the ring and translate them to the delicate art of pass catching.
It's like a fighter. When he starts off, you know, they go, and go, and then eventually one or the other starts getting to the other one. That's the way I play.
He would catch a ball in the end zone, fight for it, and slam it down, and he and the defensive back would be shoving each other and sticking their finger in one another's face because they were having a war. 60 minutes worth of war.
I'd never seen someone get so emotionally worked up. He stayed that way through the entire ball game. He didn't relax till he got back into the locker room after the ball game was over and start wiping off all the stickum all over his hands and in his ears and in his hair and between his toes, and Lord knows how it got between his toes, but he was just caked with that stuff.
It was just a yellow goo that any player could have purchased. But for non-believers, stickum provided the only earthly explanation for the magic this wizard wrought for 14 NFL seasons. Spellbinding performance, though, came not from a store-bought substance, but from an attitude that money couldn't buy.
Any edge I could get on doing little things here or there, and that's not only to stick them and all that stuff. It's just you weren't in there you were in there to play football, boy. You're in there to win. You know, and whatever you had to do to win, and that was the enjoyment of football.
The will to win has been a dominating theme of the Raider organization, and while no player has epitomized that will more than Fred Biletnikoff, I will remember him most because he hated to lose.
The determination running with the football, because he didn't have great speed. He had great quickness. Now he's in that secondary against people who are all track men, but he's going to get every yard for us he can.
Biletnikoff's hunger for victory grew with the importance of every game. So it was only fitting that his greatest glory came in the biggest game of his life. It was Super Bowl 11, and as the Raiders routed the Minnesota Vikings 32-14, the most valuable player was Fred Biletnikoff.
He can beat you not with great athletic skill, but with artifice, timing, and execution. And that was Fred Biletnikoff.
He was a self-made receiver who achieved greatness, the Hall of Fame, and was a genius in what he did.
Sheriff, Walt, I saw you when you walked in and we spoke, but I forgot to introduce you. He's a great sheriff and a fair to Midland golfer. Sheriff, good to see you. Walt McNeil. Honor to have you here. Now, the Biletnikoff Award recognizes college football season's outstanding FBS receiver. Any player, regardless of position, wide receiver, tight end, slot back, running back, if they catch a pass, they're eligible for the award. And as such, the Biletnikoff Award recognizes college football's outstanding receiver, not merely college football's outstanding wide receiver. In this case, they got it right. The semifinalist, finalist, and award recipient are selected by the highly distinguished 640-person Biletnikoff Award Selection Committee, a group of prominent college football journalists, commentators, announcers, former Biletnikoff Award winners, and other former receivers. Foundation trustees do not vote and have never voted. The Biletnikoff candidate eligibility and voting criteria are very explicit, and the details are available for your review in biletnikoffaward.com criteria. The Biletnikoff Award is now selected annually by more than 640 official voters, and over time, something remarkable has happened. Basically, now it is the Biletnikoff voters who choose the nation's receivers for All-American honors. Our Biletnikoff winners and finalists inevitably dominate the All-American lists, and the voters look to the Biletnikoff nominees to populate their All-American teams. Ole Miss junior receiver Elijah Moore will enter the 2021 NFL Draft this spring. He was injured only 8 games into last season, but at the time, he led the nation in receiving yards per game and receptions per game. He racked up just short of 1,200 yards, a total second only to Devontae Smith. He scored 8 touchdowns in the 8 games he played last season, and in 3 years at Ole Miss, he caught 2,500 yards of passes for 16 touchdowns. First team All-SEC and consensus first team All-American, as well as a finalist for the Biletnikoff and Maxwell Awards. At only 5'9", Elijah Moore is small for an NFL receiver, whereas Florida tight end Kyle Pitts is a tank at 6'6" and 250. Last year, he had 43 receptions for nearly 800 yards and 12 touchdowns. Pitts finished his career at Florida with 100 receptions for nearly 1,500 yards and 18 touchdowns. He is Florida's all-time leader for receiving yards by a tight end and ranks second all-time in career receptions at that position. Pitts won unanimous first-team All-American honors, won the Mackey Award, finalist for the Biletnikoff Award, and finished among the top 10 nationally in the Heisman Trophy voting. Now, let's see our 2020 Biletnikoff Award runners-up in action.
Elijah Moore, who has been, I think, the best wide receiver in college football.
He's an elite route runner. I mean, it's unbelievable. When you really break down the film.
You've got an exemplary talent in number 8, Elijah Moore.
Are we talking about the Biletnikoff?
Oh, my goodness, Elijah Moore wide open. Touchdown, Ole Miss. What a play.
And it's Elijah Moore again. One of the most dangerous playmakers in the SEC is having himself a day.
Elijah Moore playing a little running back here. A little wrinkle in the Ole Miss offense.
Corral has time to throw, lofts it up, going for the end zone. Touchdown, Rebels. Moore goes in motion. He'll tap pass it to him. He's trying to stretch it to the end zone, and why not? He's done everything else today. Give him another touchdown. Touchdown, Ole Miss. And who else? Elijah Moore with his third touchdown catch of the game, and that is worthy of a handshake. Lane Kiffin said before this game, I've coached some Pro Bowlers, some All-Americans, some Heisman Trophy finalists, but I've never had an elite slot receiver until now.
Play action, and Matt Corral wants to throw deep down the near side. He's got Elijah Moore. Moore is going to haul it in. Everybody knew that was coming, and nobody can stop him.
That is an incredible athletic play by Elijah Moore.
Wide open down the seam, caught Elijah Moore, touchdown. They lost him again. He brings Moore in motion, sprints to his right, throws to the end zone. He's got his man, Elijah Moore.
Sometimes they're just winning throws, and sometimes they're just guys that are too good for this league. And this guy is a matchup nightmare.
He's got the cheat code, Jonesy.
Yeah, he sure does.
Size, speed, route running, you name it.
I mean, you think about Kyle Pitts, and then you look at the guys that are excelling at his position in the National Football League, and the guys that got the big contracts, like Travis Kelce and George Kittle. He seems exactly like those guys.
Yeah.
He wakes up every single day and he says, I'm going to give great effort, I'm going to have a great attitude. Those are the two things that he controls as a player.
This has been a nightmare matchup for corners, safeties, linebackers. Nobody has had an answer for number 84.
There he is, Pitts. Room service. Here is Pitts. Run, young man, run. Touchdown, Gators. Pitts. Touchdown, the remix. Going to the end zone. Pitts has got it. Touchdown, Florida.
Sensational catch in the end zone. Kyle Pitts out 5.
And now deep on the sideline for Pitts. And he makes a catch. Kyle Pitts.
Pitts, oh, what a grab. What a great grab by Kyle Pitts going up to get it.
I mean, you got to be kidding me.
Going to the end zone. Pitts, touchdown.
My goodness.
Well, no. I just know it's going to be a scary season.
It is my distinct honor today to introduce our guest speaker, Mr. Chad Hennings. His resume is so flawlessly impressive that I took it as a challenge to find some evidence of a dark side, some crack in the crystal, just to make this introduction more interesting. It's just like when I found out that Coach Bowden taught all 4 of his sons how to chew tobacco. I asked Bobby, why did you do that? He said, well, I didn't want them to smoke cigarettes or drink alcohol or to cuss using the Lord's name or to run around getting in trouble at night, but dadgummit, a boy has just got to do something wrong. So we'd all sneak out back behind the house where Ann couldn't see us, and we'd chew tobacco together. Chad Hennings graduated from the Air Force Academy as the 1987 Outland Trophy winner, named the best interior lineman in the country. Our Biletnikoff Award recipient, Mr. Smith, has already established himself as one of the best players in University of Alabama history. And it is universally held that our distinguished guest, Mr. Hennings, is considered to be the best player in Air Force Academy history. And that's no small thing. He was awarded the Conference Defensive Player of the Decade in the 1980s. First team academic All-American twice. Later inducted into the GTE Academic All-American Hall of Fame. Unanimous first team All-American defensive tackle. As national winner of the Outland Trophy, he led the nation with 24 sacks and was inducted into the College Football Hall of Fame in 2006. On Air Force active duty, he went straight into the first Gulf War as a combat pilot, flying 45 missions over northern Iraq. 4 years later, after his discharge, he showed up at the Dallas Cowboys training camp as a 27-year-old rookie. He played well over 100 games for the Cowboys, started 72 of them over 9 seasons, including 3 Super Bowl championships. He keeps his Super Bowl rings locked in a safe, he says, and he has written that he only wears them when he's speaking for kids or when he needs a dinner reservation or an upgrade on an airline. His first NFL tackle came when he took down the Detroit Lions' great punt kickoff return artist Mel Gray on the 20-yard line. That was a big thrill, he said. But, flying at 250 feet over southern Bavaria in the German Alps, firing a long-range strafing shot or taking a run in a moving tank, well, that's pretty exciting too. Everything in his life has been like that. His first season with the Cowboys, he played in the Super Bowl. He said, only a couple of months earlier, I was in combat. Then I was at the Super Bowl. And Michael Jackson was in the dressing room next door. It was surreal. As I said, I found all of this to be just a little too perfect. I was hoping, just as a way of rounding out the introduction, to uncover some small balancing flaw, maybe a small dalliance with drugs or alcohol, maybe some flirtation with the mafia, or thoughts about becoming a politician. None of our research turned up anything scandalous. Even his personal life is a storybook tale. He met his wife Tammy at the Air Force Academy. They have 2 children, a boy and a girl, and they live in a town with the Disney-esque name of Flower Mound. Since his retirement 20 years ago, he has found great success as an author and motivational speaker. He established Wingmen, a Christian men's ministry, and he has written 3 books about the importance in a life of commitment, engagement, and character. Please welcome our distinguished guest, Chad Hennings.
Don't hurt me. No, I am impressed. That was an outstanding introduction. And I'm glad I paid all my friends off so that you didn't get any dirt on me. But Charlie, thank you for the introduction. I want to congratulate Devontae. Outstanding man. I am very impressed, young man, and I expect great things from you, and you have a bright, bright future. Coach Wiggins, from the brief opportunities I've had to have conversation with you, I can see your passion you have for your players, and I expect you in the coming years to potentially be a coach in the NFL at the next level of Devontae. Our scholarship winners, you inspire me. You give me hope for the next generation that our country is truly in great hands. And God bless you, and I will put you on my prayer list to continue to lift you up, that you can be who you choose to be, and it is your choice. To our trustees of the foundation and to Walt, I am impressed. This is an event that truly exudes excellence in all aspects. And that's truly what I want to dive into today, is the concept of excellence as an individual and as an organization. But first, just to share a brief story with you, and Devontae, we'll soon be able to appreciate this. In 2012, I was asked by the Cowboys to represent them in the 2012 NFL Draft. This was a program they had started the year prior where they asked an alumni of one of the 32 NFL teams to go to the NFL Draft and to announce one of the subsequent second or third round draft selections. This particular year, it was in New York City at Radio City Music Hall. And like a lot of the football fanatics that watch the draft, on the night of the first round draft selection, for those of you who have seen it, Roger Goodell, the NFL commissioner, would take the podium. He announced a particular team and their subsequent draft pick. Well, I was curious who the Cowboys were going to draft that year. And as I was watching on TV, Goodell just gets up to the podium and he just says the name, Dallas Cowboys. And the whole place erupts. Boo, boo, Cowboys suck, boo. Because in that geographical part of the country, in the NFC East, the Cowboys division, the preponderance of the teams, the fans of the teams that were there were those Washington Redskin fans, the New York Giant fans, and those fans that are in dire need of psychiatric care, Philadelphia Eagle fans, right? One of our interns is an Eagles fan here, and you deserve all the ration of crap I'm going to give you throughout this speech, young man. No, But hearing that reception, I was a little bit nervous and apprehensive about what type of reception I was going to receive the following evening when they made the introduction for me to announce the draft pick, because you know what? Nobody wants to get booed, correct? Well, finally, I was sitting there pondering this in the back of my mind. Finally, the next night, it came my turn. Now, standing off stage right, they hand you a 3x5 index card, and the rules of engagement are just read the card. So I read through the card, and I could pronounce the individual's name. I said, okay, I got this. And then I began to think, okay, be a professional. You're going to walk across the stage after the introduction, and they're going to boo you. So don't just be cool. Be a professional. So they began to read the introduction. Please welcome to the stage former Dallas Cowboy, 3-time Super Bowl champion. And I start to walk out. They also added Gulf War veteran, former A-10 pilot, Air Force Academy graduate. And to my surprise, I received the reception of the polite golf clap. Because even cowboy haters can't boo a veteran, right? Well, but at that point in time, I thought to myself, you know, the world is not in correct balance if a Philadelphia Eagle fan cannot boo a former Dallas Cowboy. So I did decide to ad-lib at that point in time. As I took the stage, I began to read the card. And the 82nd pick in the 2012 draft, and I kind of paused and perused the audience just for dramatic effect. And I said, America's team, the Dallas Cowboys. It was ended up being Tyrone Crawford. The whole place erupts. Boo, boo, Hennings, you suck. And I walked off the stage waving. The world was now back in balance. But I share that story with you just, as to lighten the mood, but to share that I've been a part of 2 organizations that I truly deem exude excellence. The Dallas Cowboys and our United States military. Yes, sir. No doubt. To me, when you talk about excellence, living a life of excellence, it's not a destination you never arrive. It's a journey. It's a process. I've read many studies that have indicated that when an individual sets a goal, it's the journey that is more meaningful and impactful than actually accomplishing the task in and of itself. So to me, excellence is a mindset. It's a state of being. It's taking into consideration those things that make that journey more meaningful and impactful when you talk about your identity, you talk about your virtue, your relationships, your commitment, and ultimately your legacy. I so appreciate the quote that says, watch your thoughts to become your words. Watch your words to become your actions. Watch your actions to become your behavior. Watch your behavior, it becomes your character. And watch your character becomes your legacy. I've been able to accomplish a lot of different things in my life, but ultimately, so what? To me, an individual's legacy is not defined by the accomplishments, by the plaques you maybe have hanging on your office wall, nor is it defined by material possessions, the amount of money you've been able to accumulate in your 401k to retire, nor is it defined by your inability to overcome obstacles or your failures in life. A person's legacy is truly defined by relationships. Those people who you have been able to impact, hopefully for the good, in your life. That's truly what life is about. It's all about relationships. Several years ago, when I retired from the Cowboys, I asked myself a simple question as to why. Why did I do what I did? Why did I take the path in life that I did? From the introduction, I was able to accomplish and achieve a lot of different things. In high school as an all-star student athlete, at the Air Force Academy as a 2-time academic All-American, unanimous All-American, MVP of 2 different bowl games, the Outland Trophy winner. I was a combat veteran with 45 missions flown into northern Iraq. I was a 3-time Super Bowl champion with a 9-year career with the Dallas Cowboys. But it was a major trauma in my life with the health of my son that made me realize that those things that I had accomplished, they were just that. They were things. The priorities that I started my adult life pursuing, the things that I thought were important for my wife, for my kids, my career, they weren't important. They were temporal. I was really striving to find out what that foundational philosophy or that metric that I could pass my thoughts, my words, and my actions through that would provide that sense of meaning and purpose. That why. What was that sense of excellence about? It was during this time that I was reading a lot of historical works. I love to read biographies on individuals about what made them a success. And I love to read books on social psychology, what makes people tick. And the one book I think started this whole introspective process off for me was a book written by a gentleman named Viktor Frankl called Man's Search for Meaning. For those of you who haven't read Frankl, Frankl was a Jewish Austrian psychiatrist who survived one of the most horrific, barbaric experiences a human being could have. He was a survivor of Auschwitz. This was a guy who had everything taken from him. All his material possessions were stripped away. All his family members were murdered in the camp. He was left to the bare essence of what it means to be a human being, and that is just to survive. But as a medical doctor, he made several observations in the camp as to why some people lived and others died. And the main determining factor that he found as to why they lived is that they had a purpose or a meaning to live for. Now, that purpose or meaning could be for your faith, your religious belief. It could be for wanting to live for someone else, a spouse, a child, a grandchild, a sibling, a friend. It could have been for an emotion, anger, or the most powerful emotion there is, love. But bottom line, it was something that caused that person to live beyond and outside themselves. And on the flip side of that, he made an observation as to why many people died. And they died even though they lived in better conditions, had better food, better shelter, better working conditions, but yet they still died. And the main reason why was, what he found was because they lost their why. They lost their purpose. They lost their hope. They lost their vision, their focus. And it kind of goes along with what the philosopher Nietzsche says, that he who has a why to live for can bear almost any how. He who has a why, a purpose, a meaning to live for can bear almost any how. Now, when I read that quote, man, it was like getting head slapped in practice by Larry Allen, former offensive guard for the Dallas Cowboys, now Hall of Famer. It was just ding. But that light bulb went on. What was my why? Why did I do what I did? Not just in regards to my pursuit of my personal goals, but also in regards to my relationships as a husband, as a father, as a teammate, as a member of our community, as a member of our nation. Because I firmly believe that in the universal truths, that what makes living a life of excellence as an individual is also those same truths that make a community pull together in leading excellence. And that sense of excellence is basically living out the same game plan, have the same set of morals, same set of core values. One of my favorite social psychologist authors, he's a University of Virginia professor named Jonathan Haidt, H-A-I-D-T. Dr. Haidt has written 3 books called The Righteous Mind, The Happiness Hypothesis, and The Coddling of the American Mind. But each and one of his 3 books, he makes reference to a study done by French pioneer sociologist named Émile Durkheim. Durkheim, in the latter part of the 19th century, 100 plus years ago, traveled all over Western Europe and he studied communities. And he found where those communities did not have a common moral foundation, a common sense of purpose. There was a decrease in happiness and an increase in suicide. You know, not to state the obvious, but look at our culture today. Durkheim concluded that people need obligations and constraints to provide structure and meaning to their lives. He said that, quote, the more weakened the groups to which a man belongs, the less he depends on them. The more he consequently depends only on himself and recognizes no other rules of conduct than what are founded in his own private interests. In other words, it's all about me. You know, in my perspective, if you want to live that life of excellence, it's first and foremost what I talk to you guys about, identity. Who do you choose to be? And then secondly, following that up with what I call being a force of character. That's living to be your best self every day. Encourage others to live that same sense of life and purpose. And the organizations that you're affiliated with, encourage them to rise to a higher noble purpose or cause. I say that because I believe everyone, particularly, we'll just say specifically, everyone in this audience today, you want to live a life of significance. You want your life to count, to matter. You want to be a part of something greater than self. You know, some people, again, choose to fill that inner need of things of material gain, money, fame, social status. But that's like kind of asking yourself that question. I'll be happy when I fill in the blank. I'll be happy when I graduate from college. I'll be happy when I get drafted. I'll be happy when I get that first job, that promotion. I'll be happy when I get married. I'll be happy when we have kids. I'll be happy when the kids leave. Amen, parents? I am a recent empty nester and kids are off the payroll. Thank you, Lord. Amen. But bottom line, it takes commitment. To me, commitment it's about having a plan and working that plan. It's about what do you do when things don't necessarily go as planned? What do you do when you hit those proverbial crossroads in life? And I think on the flip side of that is, what do you do when you've accomplished what you set out to do? Remember, when I discussed earlier, it's the journey that is more impactful than actually accomplishing the goal. And I can attest, Devontae, that when I was a member of the Dallas Cowboys, it was easier to climb that ladder of success to be that Super Bowl champion the first time than it was to continue to repeat year after year, because when you get that sense of success, apathy can creep in. People have different agendas, different visions, different values, different sets of purpose and identity. Man, and it's a long way to fall to the bottom. So basically, with these experiences I've had as a fighter pilot flying A-10s, as a professional athlete, and I think even more so as a husband and a father, I've learned a few lessons, again, how to live a life of excellence. And I firmly believe whether it's raising your kids, negotiating the next deal, flying a mission in combat, or circumventing an offensive line in the NFL, these principles are universal. The first principle is I'm going to talk about a principle of vision. Vision. When I talk about vision, you're all business owners or soon are retired individuals that have owned businesses here in the past. When I talk about vision, you typically think about goals you want to accomplish, where you want to take your company, etc. But vision goes beyond just the X's and O's of business. It's about who you are in pursuit of those goals and aspirations. As the biblical proverb states that where there is no vision, the people perish. Your vision is the foundation that the rest of your energies are built upon. For example, if you have a vague vision, if you don't have a clearly set identity, where you pass your thoughts, your words, and your experience through that metric, the decisions you make will be made in a vacuum. Depending upon where you particularly find yourself at that given point in time, changes in the economy, changes in health, where it could be the aspect of short-term gain but long-term pain. Your vision does not change. It is set in stone and it is set in concrete. And it takes commitment truly to follow through. One story I think that exemplifies this, there's a story about a young man who his vision is he just wanted to be wealthy. That's all he thought about 24/7 was money. Money, 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 money. Well, one day he went up to a very wealthy elderly gentleman and he said, "Sir, how'd you make your money?" That elderly gentleman kind of sat back, he stroked his chin, he said, "Well, son, it was 1932. It was in the depths of the Great Depression." He said, "I was down to my last nickel." He said, "I took that nickel and I bought an apple. And I spent the whole day polishing that apple. At the end of the day, I sold that apple for 10 cents. Great capitalistic society in which we live, right?" He said, "I took that 10 cents, my profits, and I invested the next day into my business. Again, I bought 2 apples. Follow the same policies and procedures. Polished them up, at the end of the day, sold them for 20 cents. He said, "I kept that whole process up for a month. And at the end of the month, I accumulated a fortune of $1.37. Then my wife's father died and left me $2 million. I tell you that story because if your vision as to who you are is concentrated purely upon material gain, it's not a lasting vision. It's not a lasting vision. I appreciate a quote by Horace Greeley, who was an 19th century politician and newspaper editor out of New York. He said that fame is a vapor. Popularity is an accident. Riches take wings. Those who cheer you today will curse you tomorrow. The only thing that endures is character. A personal story for me. Prior to graduating from the Air Force Academy, I was drafted by the Dallas Cowboys. I wasn't a first-round draft pick. I was back in the day, Devontae, when they had 11 rounds. I was an 11th-round draft pick for the Cowboys. I was a token. They just threw out there, but they took a flyer on me because they had success earlier with doing that with Roger Staubach. So they took a shot. But I knew I had a minimum of a 5-year military commitment, but I chose to up it to 8 years because I wanted to fly jets. So technically playing in the NFL was never an option for me. But I went through pilot training at Shepherd Air Force Base in Wichita Falls, Texas. It's about an hour and a half outside the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. In the fall of the year, I would get tickets from Gil Brandt, the Cowboys Hall of Fame player personnel director. And I'd bring my buddies down, and we have 50-yard line seats at the Cowboys game, sideline passes. And as I'm watching these games, I'm watching those individuals from my draft class, Michael Irvin, Ken Norton Jr., play. And man, it would tear me up inside. Because here's the quandary. In my head, I knew that I needed to be an individual of character, a person of virtue, that I needed to follow through with my commitment and serve my nation. But in here, I wanted to play. I wanted to, quote unquote, see if I had the right stuff to take it to the next level. And it took me a long time to be able to reconcile that. But it was probably the most important lesson that I learned was that the concept of identity, what you do does not define who you are. And I wanted to be an individual of character, and I wanted to pursue that first and foremost. So vision. Vision is the key. Second step is to evaluate. Blaise Pascal, who is a French philosopher and mathematician, has said that one must know oneself. If this does not serve to discover truth, it at least serves as a rule of life, and there's nothing better. So what does that mean? Take a personal inventory. What are your strengths and what are your weaknesses? You build on both. You get your strengths stronger and you limit your weaknesses. But it's during this evaluation process that you got to be honest with yourself, or you're ultimately going to just prolong the inevitable. So I actually have a challenge for you when you leave here today. I challenge you to go to someone that intimately knows you, a spouse, a close family friend, a family member, and ask them this question. How do you see me? What are my strengths and what are my weaknesses regarding my character, your character? You know, I did this with my wife once. And I was actually shocked because here we all have a perception of reality as to how we view ourselves, right? I was a good guy. I was, did a lot of philanthropy in the community. I was able to accomplish and achieve a lot. But my wife, in her loving manner, was able to point out weaknesses that I had as both a husband and a father. Because many times, Coach, I'm sure you at times can possibly struggle with this, is that I was there physically, but man, I wasn't there mentally or emotionally because I'm thinking about the next play. I was thinking about the next business deal, whatever it might have been. But to be present. So that's one thing. Evaluate. Have those relationships too where you can be intimate and transparent with friends and or family members. So vision, evaluate. The third area is to train. Prepare yourself for the task. You're training right now. You're getting after it physically to be able to approach the draft and play potentially, well, you will be playing for whatever team you're going to be with. So we all know how to train by eating the right foods, physically, eating right foods, dieting, exercise, etc. But how do you train from a character perspective? And for you scholarship winners, this is one thing I want you to encourage you. How do you train from a character perspective? You train through mentors. Individuals that you respect that have more wisdom, life's knowledge applied, more life experience. And ask them questions about, truly what has made them a success. And the thing about mentorship is mentorship is a two-way street. The more you receive of wisdom, the more you give it away. The more you get, the more you give. But then if you're at the top of the heap, where you're a senior statesman, or you're like me, you're starting to lose that hair, or your hair goes gray, and there's really nobody else to mentor you, then it's all about peer-to-peer accountability. And I can tell you that every moral failure or virtue failure that I've ever read about or experienced through relationships was always due to isolation. No man is an island. In one of my books called Rules of Engagement, I wrote about several tenets life lessons that I relate to my children. And probably one of the most important tenet was this: he who walks with wise men will be wise. He who walks with wise men will be wise. You're going to be known by your relationships and your mentors. That's what truly gives that aspect of living life of excellence. Learn from other people's mistakes. So vision, evaluate, train, plan. Well, the fourth area is to plan. Plan your work and work your plan. As I talked about being a force of character, that was the last book I wrote, Forces of Character. I had the opportunity to sit down with 10 people that impacted my life. Several names you recognize, some names you won't. I talked with Roger Staubach, Troy Aikman, Jason Garrett, Greg Popovich, coach for the Spurs, Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas. I interviewed an astronaut, a survivor of Auschwitz, international human rights attorney from former communist Romania, and the CEO for the National Center on Fathering. Individuals from varied backgrounds, male, female, black, white, different backgrounds up and down the economic scale about why they pursued a life of character. And I think one of the most impactful conversations that I had was with Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas. I could really relate to his story For those of you who haven't read his biography, did you know that Justice Thomas was homeless for a period of time early in his life? His father had deserted him. It was he, his younger brother, and his mother. Their home burned down. So they were homeless, and they had to go live with his grandfather, who had a farm outside Savannah, Georgia. And this is so cool. He shared with me that one of the first things that his grandfather said to he and his brother was that, boys, if you want to know what to do in life, just watch me. You talk about mentorship. Mentorship cannot be truly taught, have that transformational component by getting on a whiteboard and telling you this is what courage is, this is what willingness to listen to others. It has to be demonstrated. So you talk about mentorship, that's how we do it. But in regards to planning, he shared a story that I could really relate to. This was a story growing up on a farm. I grew up on a farm in Iowa. I'm an Iowa farm boy. He said one day his grandfather gave him $5 to go buy some gas to go put it in an old Ford tractor to go plow a 40-acre field. And for those of you, you're going to get an agricultural lesson if you haven't been on a farm before. But when you plow a field, you drop that plow head in the field and you go across to the other side of the field. You turn the tractor around, you put that front tire in that furrow, and you go back in the other direction. It's very monotonous, very tedious. Just go back and forth, you're done. He said when he finished that field, he looked over his body of work and he realized, oh crap, those furrow rows were crooked. Because that first furrow that he plowed was crooked, and every subsequent furrow thereafter was crooked. And I thought, man, what a phenomenal lesson in life that is. That sometimes the things you say, the actions that you take, even certain thoughts that you have, your subsequent thoughts, words, and actions build on that. And I thought to myself too, I remember lessons of how my father and my grandfather taught me. He said, Chad, if you want to plow a straight furrow, if you want to go across the field in a straight line, what you got to do is find a fixed point on the other end of the field. That may be a fence post, maybe a tree, maybe a building, a stationary object. And what you do is you plow straight for that fixed point. You don't plow looking over your shoulder, because when you look over your shoulder, what's going to happen? You're going to deviate one way or the other. And if you reach an obstacle in your path, maybe a rock, a waterway, a tree, you put the plow head up, you go around that obstacle, drop the plow head again, and you continue on to that fixed point. And not to state the obvious in those life lessons, what is that fixed point? As we talked about, that's your legacy. That's where you want to be at the end of your days. That's where you're pushing towards. You don't plow looking over your shoulder. Your past is your past. It does not continue to impact, because if you dwell on your past, you're going to deviate from where God wants you to be. And those obstacles in front of your view, that's life. Life happens. Changes in relationships, changes in job, changes in your health. But it doesn't have to negate from how you finish at the end of your days. Another tenet that I shared with my kids was life is a series of choices. Choose wisely. So for me, in wrapping this up, if you want to live that life of excellence, the final stage is it's time to execute. You have done everything that you can do to put yourself in that position of excellence. You have that strong sense of vision, that identity. You know your strengths and your weaknesses. You have your mentors. You have that plan to be able to know where you want to be strategically, long-term, and tactically, how to get there. But here's the key. At some point in time, you got to get off the bench and get in the game. I never knew I had what it took to be a fighter pilot till I flew my first mission. I never knew I had what it took to be a player in the NFL till I ran down the field. Either I delivered that first blow or, I got tackled myself. Until that time, it was all practice. It was all theory. You got to get off the game, take risks, and get out there. So to wrap this up, what it means to live a life of excellence, for you young people, let me hit this one home. It's your identity. What you do does not define who you are. Live every day as to be that force of character. Live every day to its fullest to be your best self. Some days you're going to have challenges. They're going to be more challenging than others. Encourage those around you to be their best selves too. And then whatever organizations that you're affiliated with, we're all called to rise to a higher noble purpose or cause. That's what excellence is about, no matter what job or field you find yourself in. That's what it means to live excellence. Amen? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chad. That was great. I like that. Now, I'm honored to introduce the 2020 Biletnikoff Award winner, who is also the 2020 Heisman Trophy winner, Devontae Smith. In this instance, I don't need to recite sets of statistics. You have watched him play 4 years at Alabama. You've watched him star in 3 national championship games. You watched him 4 years ago as a freshman catch the touchdown pass in overtime that sealed the national championship for Alabama. You saw him less than 2 months ago score 3 touchdowns against Ohio State in the first half. He was hurt in the second half and didn't even play. In 4 years, you have probably seen more of him than you have of any previous Biletnikoff Award winner. In reading about our 2 special guests today, Chad Hennings and Devontae Smith, I was struck by 3 strong similarities between them. First is their humility. Both are self-effacing. They don't brag about their extraordinary achievements, and they feel that they are blessed to be where they are today. Alabama fans are still so in awe of one play that they simply call it the catch. And everyone knows that it refers to Devontae Smith's touchdown play in overtime that secured the 2017 national championship for Alabama. But Devontae prefers to not even talk about it. It was a long time ago, he says. There's always the next game to play. The second thing they have in common is size. Chad Hennings was too big, Devontae Smith was too small. And neither man has ever allowed that to defeat their dreams. As a graduate of the Air Force Academy, Chad Hennings insisted on flying fighter jets. He was 6'6" and 270, and the Air Force said there's no way, that's not possible. So he pushed, and he got a waiver, so they put him in a single-seat aircraft called a Warthog and sent him out into the desert to kill tanks. Now, if enemy fire were to score a hit on him, he'd have to bail out. You've seen film of pilots bailing out of jet aircraft. But the reality is that the ejection is so violent and Hennings is so big that the canopy explosion would instantly break his neck and sever his legs. But he would not be denied his dream. You do what you have to do to live the life of excellence. Sports Illustrated described Devontae as the scrawny kid who just wouldn't go away no matter how much the big kids tried to bully him. He would climb over the fence the next day to play. Devontae's uncle taught him how to catch the ball. He kept throwing it hard, bruising Devontae's chest. It hurt. The uncle said, "I'm not going to stop throwing it hard until you catch it with your hands and not with your chest." Devontae says, "The older kids tried to bully me, but I have the edge now. I like contact. I get it from those days. It was tough out there." And now at 6'1", 178 pounds, Devontae is no longer the scrawny kid that Sports Illustrated described, and he's not bullied anymore. Finally, both of these men, Chad and Devontae, share a ferocious commitment to living lives of excellence. One Alabama sports writer said, "It's impossible to keep Devontae off the field. Simply being the best isn't enough for him." The sports writer told one story from the Kentucky game when Devontae, the senior captain, tried to pull rank on a younger defensive back who was scheduled to return the punt. But the younger player pushed back. "It's my turn." They both cinched up and walked out on the field at the same time. Alabama fans were horrified that their star receiver would risk injury just to return another punt in a game they were already winning 63-3. The sports writer said, "Somebody call a timeout to physically remove this kid from the game." And that's who Devontae Smith is. This is my game. This is my field. And I will not be denied. It's not selfishness. It's being committed to a life of excellence. I will live a life of excellence. I will not be denied. Devontae Smith is the first wide receiver in 30 years to win the Heisman. He will graduate from Alabama with a 4.0 grade point average, and he dropped 2 passes in all of 2020. Coach Saban said, Devontae's pursuit of excellence is unmatched, and it has been an honor to observe it. So now, let's observe our incredibly talented 2020 Biletnikoff Award winner in action. Congratulations. Now I would call Foundation Chairman George Avant Jr. to the front to make the trophy presentation. Devontae, would you and Chad Hennings and Coach Wiggins, would you all come out front here and we'll have our little, David Damron, do we have the microphones? Where are they? Oh. Why don't you Coach, grab that microphone over there if you would. Now, most of you know how this is done. We have a little back and forth question and answer, informal tete-a-tete here before the presentation, the trophy's actually presented. Mr. Chairman, George, congratulations to you and your fundraising chairman, Walter Manley, on another great revenue year for the foundation. I should mention that this is Professor Manley's 23rd year as fundraising chairman. 10th year as chairman of the selection committee, and 27th year as the writer and creator of this magnificent program. George, would you please open the program here?
Devontae, I just want to say I got goosebumps watching your highlight reel, and I can't wait to see you at the next level. I do want to thank all the trustees that made this year possible, and of course, especially Walter. He is the driving force behind this organization. We had several people, every organization, you have that 80-20 rule, and all 100% of us did something, but we've got about 20% that really took it to the next level. John Harris, Roger Champion, Bob Teal, Charles Hopkins. Especially thank you guys, and I certainly look forward to a fantastic year next year.
Thank you. Well, Devontae, we'll put you on the spot here. Fred Biletnikoff, who you have never seen play, said that he really enjoyed going up against defensive backs that talked to him and challenged him and shot their mouths off. He said he really liked that. He said, I'd catch a few passes and they'd shut up right away. So have you had any conversations with talkative defensive backs over the last 4 years?
All the time. Yeah, that's just something that they do. They do it all the time.
Coach Wiggins, I've seen and read a great deal about Devonta. Sports writers and commentators are always amazed at his skills, but they also come back around. They always talk about his toughness. How does Devonta's toughness set him apart from other star receivers, please?
Well, first, it's his mentality. He comes in, he believes in himself, he believes in his craft, but also it's his competitiveness. I think you have a lot of receivers in this day and age that make business decisions, and albeit now he's going to have some big ones to make, but as a football player, there wasn't no job too big for him. So whether that was going across the middle to make a catch, whether that was playing without the ball, helping somebody spring a run, he did it all. So I think with his toughness, it started with how competitive he was, his mindset, and the chip on his shoulder, like you talked about. A lot of people talked about what he couldn't do. So in his mind, he was going to show everybody what he knew he could do.
Coach, you spent your whole career in college coaching, and I'm curious about this. There's a lot of changes coming in college football. I'm not sure I like all of them, but I want your take on what you think, and you never know, but how do you think the next 5 to 10 years of college football is going to unfold? What's it going to look like?
Well, there's already changes. You talk about with COVID hitting and the pandemic and some of the things that we've had to pivot and adjust and adapt to just from, the season. You talk about a lot of FCS schools already playing right now. They had to, sit there and push their season back. They're playing in the spring right now. But I think everything that the NC2A is trying to do is cater to the student athlete. So the practices and the procedures are going to be catered to those guys. They're trying to make sure that they're doing a great job of limiting the numbers of, practices that guys can have, long loss of the 2-a-days and the 3-a-days that we used to have, Chad. But I think that is the right way to go. I think the other thing that you'll probably see, especially with how the season has kind of happened, is some conference realignment stuff. And everybody's kind of talked about, or what's been a hot topic, is just the expansion of the college football playoff. So I'm interested to see kind of what that would look like.
Chad, you had a spectacular career. And I know the game, you've watched the game and you keep up with the game, but you retired 20 years ago from the NFL. And do you, I'm right here for you, Can you offer young Mr. Smith any advice on the NFL of 2021?
Yes, I'm going to tell you, I think your coach has already said this many times to you. It's what has gotten you to this point. Your drive, your mindset, doing those little things. What made you a success at every level is going to be the same recipe or universal truth that's going to make you a success at the next level. Remember who you are. And probably the biggest thing that I tell any young person, any young man that's going to go play in the NFL as a rookie, the more that you can do, the more difficult it is for them to get rid of you. So volunteering, well, not that you're going to have to play special teams, but man, whatever it takes, whatever the coach asks, volunteer. And I know that's part of who you are and your character. But that's, I think, the keys to success and longevity. Taking care of yourself, mindset, remembering who you are, and man, whatever it takes. I played Hall of Fame receiver, Michael Irvin. That was his DNA. Man, he busted his butt. He got after it. He wanted to compete and wanted to play and did whatever it took to make those teams that we played on. 3 Super Bowl championships in 4 years was a lot to do to him. So you got a bright future in front of you, buddy. You're a recipe for success.
Thank you. Coach Wiggins, one more. Coach Wiggins, this was really cool. I like this. The great Aaron Taylor, 2-time All-American defensive lineman at Notre Dame, called Walter Manley and said, have you seen the Alabama receivers block? Nobody blocks. They all block. Nobody else blocks. The Alabama receivers will knock some safety on his butt. I like that. As a lineman, I like that. I like to see the receivers knocking a safety down. Is that something you teach at Alabama that makes them a little different, where the wide receivers actually hit somebody going down the field?
Well, absolutely.
Knew what the answer was, didn't you?
The biggest thing for those guys is just being unselfish. Coach has a big, placard outside that says "out of yourself and into the team." There's going to be a lot of plays where we have guys that have unbelievable talent and ability, like Devontae, where we want to put the balls in their hands. But there's also other players and also other plays that happen where they won't have the ball. So what are you doing when that time presents itself? So you see these guys wanting to take pride, not only in their own success, but other people's success. So that's an unbelievable deal that, Coach Saban starts from the top. We continue to kind of preach it. Me being an old running backs guy, you get what you emphasize, and that's definitely a point that we try to emphasize.
Thanks, Coach. Devontae, I read in Sports Illustrated about the barber. Tell us about the barber. Now, here's what I've read. There's a humble man in your hometown who runs a small barbershop. He mentors young players, pushing them toward athletic and academic excellence. Sports Illustrated said that every few weeks, Mr. Vincent Sanders drives 5 hours to Tuscaloosa to spend 20 minutes cutting your hair. Other young men in your hometown, men who play for other Southern teams, call Vincent Sanders an inspirational figure. And I understand he helps a lot of young men in your town. Tell us about the barber.
He means a lot to me. I wouldn't be where I am today without him, with him just taking me and people that I've played with to camps, just taking us to different universities just to see what they have to offer and just giving us the opportunity to get our name out there. So without him, I wouldn't even be here. I honestly don't think without him I wouldn't have got my shot at playing ACC football. So a lot of that goes out to him.
Coach, one more question for you. Yeah, okay. Yeah, let's do that. The game has changed a lot. Mm-hmm. For a receiver in today's game, how important, and I know some receivers are faster than others, how important is acceleration after the catch?
Well, we've always heard the mantra, speed kills. So there's a lot of things that you can have in abundance and excess of, but I don't think, especially from a football standpoint, you can be too fast. So having the ability to separate, and you talk about acceleration, it is a heartbreaker to a guy that basically tries to open up, or he's trying to build somewhat of some sight line or a fixed point to try to get to you, and he cannot basically sit there and close the space and close the distance. So acceleration is huge. So you talk about a guy like Devontae Smith with his stride length, right, and how he kind of gets up to top speed. It's a little tricky, when you talk about it, but his acceleration is tremendous, so we try to make sure that we can sit out there and basically recruit guys that have that foot speed, because, if any of us had a chance to basically coach it, we'd be rich men.
Thank you. What was it about, Rick? What did you say about it?
Yeah, nobody has a market cornered on speed. Like we always talk about, hey, you know what? It's God-given. You can try to knock a tenth off, but there's no magic bean that you can take to get out there and be faster.
No magic beans. That's what we'll take with us tonight, right? Before I ask Chairman to present the trophy, Chad, you really seem to be taken by these young scholarship winners and their stories. Do you have any message that you'd like to, or any encouragement that you'd like to give them just starting out their journey post-high school?
Yes. I want to encourage you and edify each and every one of you that the trials that you've been able to overcome are actually a blessing. And I share that because the greatest lessons that I ever learned in life were through times of pain and times of trial. You know, victories, they come and go. But who truly defines who you are is those times of adversity and what you do. And each of you have shown the tenacity, the resilience, and the motivation to continue to better yourself. And that's a choice each and every one of you have made. And I want to continue to encourage, just like Devontae, the advice I gave him, that mindset, and it's a mindset that you personally take, that you own, is going to define your journey in life. You're setting yourself up for success with that. So mindset, and remember, identity, as I shared in before, identity is a choice, but it's choose to be that force of character each and every day of your life. And you will be set apart from your peers. Thanks.
Two things very quickly. George will present the trophy first. Devontae has to catch a flight, so if you would allow him to leave as soon as the trophy presentation is made, so that he can get out before we all get up and try to leave. The second thing is Tom Cox Jr. and his crew will be back at the bar, and you can to distribute the silent auction items back there. Okay, Mr. Chairman, would you please do the honors? And I know it's been a challenging year for the foundation, but I know you're proud of everyone, and here you go.
We've had a great year. We have a superb recipient of the award, some fantastic scholarship recipients. Everybody I know is going to continue to strive for excellence. Remember, success is never final. And it's my honor and privilege to award this year's Biletnikoff Trophy to you, Devontae. Congratulations.